Okay, welcome to One-Handed Nightmare Asylum. This is our first episode of the podcast. Did we lose someone?
Nope. I'm here.
No, we're both here.
Okay.
Hello.
Just making sure that we haven't lost anyone. So, welcome to the show. I have with us today JVM.
Hello, everyone. How's it going?
We have been friends for years now, right?
Quite a few years, yeah. Ever since the beginning of the streaming scene for me, so got at least 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah. So I believe we were going to talk about some gaming news. What's been going on with the PS5, etc., etc.
Of course, yeah. You want to jump right into that?
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I guess if you want to go ahead and start, there's I don't know what have you heard so far, reviews wise, or any kind of bugs that are in review consoles since the big launch that we had this week.
It's good.
I wouldn't say good.
I mean, right now what the reviews are saying, but there are some bugs, like this high-pitched whine coming from the console when people are playing games from the console.
Mm-hmm.
People are really concerned, like it could be a defect. And that's all I know about on the PS5.
So I've got actually a few things that I've noticed.
So have I. Even though somebody didn't, forgot little old me, I heard that there was a lot of consoles that were already dying.
Yes, something's gotta be done about the manufacturing. For those people that are having difficulty finding a console, there should be a shipment coming worldwide next week.
Hopefully. And I'm sorry, JVM, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay. No worries. There's a few things that I've noticed. I've noticed there's been some rest mode issues when it's put into rest mode. It stalls the system, so it doesn't actually turn back on. It's actually getting to the point where it bricks it to the point where you have to factory reset sometimes when you go into rest mode. So I noticed there's been some cues to avoid rest mode at this time. So good things to know there. Some other ongoing power issues have been happening in regards to crashing or freezing while people are actually in the middle of a game. It's not a huge thing yet. It's not, across the platform like a red ring of death or anything like that, but there are some reports that they are having some issues with the powering of it. So, also another thing that I've noticed that people are getting a little bit unhappy about is the big thing PlayStation had going for them, or what they were advertising, was the backwards compatibility between PS4 and PS5. Great things, were talked about. People were hopeful that it would be PS1 all the way up to PS5. Obviously, that didn't happen. We got PS4 and PS5. The only biggest issue that I've noticed with PS5, if you're trying to load PS4 games from your PS4 to the PS5 for your transferring of data, it is highly, highly, highly recommended to do it via a landline. Because if you do it through Wi-Fi, there's been astronomical amount of delay. I'm talking, somebody that I was talking to had it. They did it over the landline, and it was going to take up about most of, three quarters of their hard drive space, because they were going to do it from console to console. And it was going to take 39 hours to do it
Oi!
with Wi-Fi. That's
Ooh.
insane. So it is highly recommended to do a landline to do it. They did
And
advertise that landline is an option, so it is. If you have an Ethernet cable, it's really, really important that you try to do landline to landline.
and that's what I use for all my consoles.
Correct.
Thanks for that.
What other things? There's also been issues with the actual transfer itself. Some loss of data, hardware failures, things of that nature. So there's been a lot of issues with this transferring of data. Also, when you start your console up for the first time and you have your controller hooked up, it is going to update the controller. There's already there's a day one update to the DualSense. So when you do plug it in to sync the controller to the console, it will do the update. You have to make sure that, obviously, this is very standard for any kind of update. You have to make sure the controller stays plugged in. If it doesn't, it could cause some issues with connectivity with the controller and the console, as well as it could just short out the controller, where you'd have to pretty much factory reset the whole console and reset the controller and redo everything from scratch again. So.
That is very interesting.
So that's another one. I'm surprised that there's a day one update for the controller, especially with it being like that. But another one that I've been keeping an eye on, because I obviously personally, I'm more of a PlayStation person than an Xbox person, so I've been keeping an eye on more on PlayStation than Xbox.
Me too. Not to say that Xbox is bad.
No, not at all. They just don't have the library I'm looking for yet. There's some games on there that I'm excited for, like The Median, but that got pushed back, and that's going to be on PC as well. So it's something that most of the stuff that I want to play on Xbox is going to be on PC as well. So I have the gaming PC, which will make it so I'm not necessarily needing a Xbox right away. Definitely some other things. I just want to list a few more things here for the PlayStation 5 before we kind of jump over to the Xbox. Another thing is the camera. Not only the PS4 camera, but also the HD camera that came out for the PS5 is having an issue with connecting. So some issues are reported receiving certain errors when trying to use a camera on the PS5. So basically, if you come across that error, you may need a dedicated adapter to use it on the PS5, especially if it's a PS4 camera, because that's what the big thing is with the VR. There is no specific VR for the PlayStation 5. There is the PlayStation 4 camera that you would use with the VR. So that's something you got to make sure to get the adapter. It is a free adapter. You just go to a website, and when you're on that website, you just put in your serial number for your VR, and they'll actually your mailing address, just so they can mail it to you, obviously, and they'll send you that free adapter.
And you know, also what I find really weird is the whole scalper situation.
I don't find it weird. It's just opportunistic people being ridiculous, honestly.
Yeah, it's not necessarily weird. That happens all the time.
But what I'm saying is they're using bots.
Yes.
Yeah, they've done that for years, honey.
Yeah, they've done that for some time.
I'm just reporting it.
Of course. Yeah, the issue. So the scalping. One thing is where I live in New York State. It's actually illegal in New York State to do that, to price gouge. So there's some laws in our state that prevent it, which is good. People still try it because they don't know any better. But yeah, price gouging is crazy.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to get a PS5 like on launch. I had one in my cart. I checked out.
And they were out.
Was stuck on the checkout screen.
Ooh.
And my console disappeared. I'm like, what the heck?
No.
Yeah. I hate it when that happens. But with all the mess that they're still dealing with right now, it's better that you wait
Yeah.
while
Yeah.
they deal with all the big bugs.
Yeah.
So some other issue is there's a big bug. This is the biggest bug and the last one I really have for the PlayStation 5. It's the download queue bug that's been kind of popping up around. So what'll happen is the PS5 is suffering from a bug that causes games and apps to freeze in the queued for download state. So it may have already downloaded on the console, but you can't access it because it still thinks it's downloading. So it's just kind of stuck in limbo. You could go into the store, it'll tell you. So normally with PlayStation Store, you go and if you bought a game, it'll say download instead of purchase. But if it's in this bug, this download bug, what'll happen is you'll see it in your library. You can't click on it. You can't play it. It says view details. You click view details, it goes back to the store and it tells you to repurchase the game. So, but it seems like with that one, a full factory reset of the console usually fixes that error. So that's been the biggest one.
And these are all day one problems.
Yes.
Which could really dampen the experience for most players.
Yes. I know I haven't gotten mine yet. Mine comes in on Tuesday. Tuesday morning, it's coming via shipping. I pre-ordered it through Target myself, and they sent it out. They actually billed and shipped it Tuesday. Getting here they promised it by the 18th, and I'm getting it on the 17th. So I can't really be too mad because it's obviously with these crazy amount of stock, I'm just happy to get one. So thank you, Target, for that. I appreciate you. But yeah, so I haven't gotten my PS4 or 5 yet, so I haven't been able to dive into it. I do have accessories that I have that I've bought that are sitting in the house waiting for. I've got accessories out the wazoo. I've got a couple games ready to go. I just need the console in hand so I can actually start enjoying it and experiencing it and really be able to talk about it. But what I can tell you is the DualSense controller feels amazing. I bought an extra controller, and that came in about 2 weeks ago. It's very smooth. It's very nice. It's very clean and chic. It's interesting. People have noted it as well. Is that there's a kind of a bumpy texture to the controller, and if you actually look close enough, the bumps are actually X, square, circle, and triangle, the actual buttons. Which is actually really kind of a cool little Easter egg for the controller.
That's cool.
So I got that. I got the charger. So now I can charge both the DualSense controller that's coming with the console as well as my additional one, so I don't have to ever worry about my battery dying on my controller. And I also got the big thing that I was excited for is the PlayStation 5 has announced that they're going to have 3D audio. So as soon as they announced that and they said they were releasing something called the 3D Pulse headset, which optimizes the 3D audio, I had to snag that. So I did get one. I bought there was only 1 or 2 left at the Walmart I went to, but I hunted it down because I had I had to piecemeal my accessories because clearly with everyone rushing to buy the console, they're also doing the same with the accessories. So it's been hard to get a hold of a lot of the accessories, and it's been a lot of hunting. So, but we're good. But other than that, I'm excited to try that out. It looks good, it feels good, but I don't know how the 3D audio is going to play, so I'm going to have to wait on that. So.
Also, the accessibility on the PS5 is absolutely amazing. I've heard that you would have dictation through their microphone that is built into the controller. I've also heard that the boot screen is actually skipped for games.
Nice.
It just brings you into the game after you press start. I've also heard you can preset the difficulty through the console itself. Right.
That's
Which
cool.
is a nice touch too. You can adjust your DualSense from it. You can adjust audio settings from it, so if you're streaming and you get a copyright claim or something, you can turn all the music off and audio effects are dealt with through that.
Yes, and some of the other, I like the fact that you can automate with a setting in the settings for PS5 is you can go in and make it so that all games play. You can turn on subtitles or invert your y-axis, which is something that someone like me who always plays with subtitles because I'm always watching, so I sometimes I read the subtitles as well so I don't miss anything that's said, or if it's mumbled, or if there's some kind of big action thing happening and the music gets a little loud. Sometimes you can miss some cues that are being said by the story. So I have the subtitles on. So every game I have to go into options and turn on the subtitles. One of the features of the PlayStation is you can activate subtitles and invert your y-axis via the settings of the PlayStation 5 itself, and then it'll work for every game going forward, so you don't have to do it again.
Yes, which will make it easier for me and Yoda to deal with the issue of music and footage and all that. You can just tell the console to do the job for us.
Exactly. Yeah. No. It's definitely helpful in that aspect.
And you can actually see the Twitch chat / YouTube chat on your game as you're playing it instead of that sidebar.
Ooh, that's actually kind of cool. See, I didn't really notice a lot about streaming because of the fact that I'm going to be using the remote play myself.
And that's what I'm going to be using as well.
So I won't probably be streaming directly from the console, so I probably won't use that feature, but knowing that is actually kind of cool. Because that was kind of annoying having the game smaller and having that really giant black-like box so you can keep an eye on your chat.
Yeah.
I hated that.
It wasn't very appealing, to say the least.
No, and like when you were typing in there, the streamer would have to, like it would show a line, then cut off to another line. So you're trying to read that, and there's no way you could read that. For me, at least. Now that fixes the issue.
Plus, also, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, honey. Also, there are times where he can't see the chat, and I wouldn't be able to because of my internet issues. So that fixes that problem.
Correct.
And on the Xbox side now.
I was going to say, as much as I love the PlayStation and everything we've talked about PlayStation, we want to give some equal opportunities to the Xbox Series X and S and talk about some of those issues that are going on. Because it's not all sunshine and rainbows and unicorns over on Xbox and Microsoft side either. So we've got to make sure that this doesn't seem like a hate podcast for PlayStation and Sony, because it's definitely far from. Both sides have their issues. So do you have any known bugs that you've actually noticed or heard or read about, Sammy, in regards to?
One thing I'd like to start off with is that whole smoke coming from the console thing.
The old vapes.
That is totally fake.
Yeah.
You can actually reproduce that.
And it shows you the amount of nonsense that people in general as a whole are in regards to this, because it's just mind-boggling that Xbox had to go on and be like, hey, don't blow smoke in your console, it could hurt it.
Duh.
What? it's like that woman with the McDonald's hot coffee and sued McDonald's because it was hot because it didn't say on the coffee. You know what I mean? Like it's just that type of level of stupidity that I can't believe we had to go down that road. But yeah, no, I've read about the smoking. One thing I saw was there's issues with the 4K at the 120 hertz, where there's some TVs are showing no signal or corrupted image when that happens.
Yes, same thing with the PS5.
Correct.
Their,
Yep.
their image gets screwed up due to the uh, GPU in there, like faulty. I've also noticed people are really concerned because the Xbox Series X might overheat. And
Yes.
I've also heard that on the PS5.
So I've seen it on the PS5. We saw it on Twitter a lot, where someone was posting it from like a Best Buy before it launched, and they had that PS5 on display, and they said it was overheating. Turn off the console, and they had the error message for it being too hot. But I want to point out that the casing that PS5 was in was extremely small. Didn't look like there was any airflow in and out of that case. You put any kind of machine, even a nice gaming PC with super water cooling and all of the crazy fancy things you could do with a PC, you throw that in a box with no ventilation air, like that's what's going to happen no matter what. So
yeah. It doesn't matter what console, what system, what ecosystem you're in.
My GameCube would do the same damn thing. So I mean, and those things are indestructible. So
make sure you've got airflow in your console
at all times, yes.
At all times.
So there has been talks about the quick resume that doesn't actually work for some of the titles, because that was a big selling point Microsoft was pointing to and even showed, was that quick resume option where you could start up your game right where you left off, no problems, and basically they automatically go to their gaming sessions from memory in the system, essentially running multiple titles simultaneously. Well, apparently some games don't have that feature. So there's some uproar, because you'd think that, especially with this big console launch, that they would want to have as many titles available for that, because it was a big selling point for them. So that's kind of interesting.
Huge.
Yeah.
I do know from the inside, they do know some people at Microsoft that they are working on that. So keep an eye out.
Fair enough. Something else, DVD and Blu-ray playback on the Xbox is displaying a black screen, which is interesting.
Yes, I heard about that.
So it's having issues with showing. It's not having an issue playing the disc. It's actually presenting the images off the disc onto it, which is interesting.
So it's not sending the image to whatever's being played or monitored.
Correct.
Which is really weird if you think about it.
Yeah, it is really weird. So something else is the HDR game captures are appearing super dark on the console, which is interesting. So if you try to video capture it, it's showing way dark compared to what you see on your TV screen.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently there is a future console update that's going to be fixing that. So
there's a ton of fixes coming, guys. We don't know when, but they're coming. On both sides of the spectrum.
And I think that's all I have for the bugs that I've taken notes on so far.
And some of the consoles I've heard are very low count, but this is still a problem. Some of their consoles are being bricked. Some people leaving them on too long.
Yes.
Now, both Microsoft and Sony, I believe, say play for 5 hours and then stop for like 30 minutes to an hour.
I mean, that's just a good rule of thumb to be, in general.
But you know how some people can be.
I mean, hey, we are those some people sometimes.
Yeah, no, 100%. I am one of those people that if I'm into a game, like I'm sitting through I'll sit 8, 10, 15 hours for this game to beat it. I'll beat a 15-hour game in like 2 days because I just can't stop. So.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that's true. Honey, you talked about the 5 hour thing. You're like some people. Do you remember last year before we got hacked, we did Mortal Kombat 11 in 6.5 hours straight?
Right, but I had given a cooldown overnight, so
I know, but I'm saying we went over the 5 hours.
that was on the PS5. I mean,
But I'm just saying that people who are at the end of their games, you tell them, okay, you got 5 hours, and they're at the close to the end of their game. They're not gonna want to put it down. So that's all I would say.
But I mean, that's just a recommendation from them.
Well, yeah, I know that.
All right, so I think that's all I had there. I actually wanted to kind of jump over to some recent games played that we've been playing. So I don't know if you want to go first, Sammy. If you guys want to talk about a couple things you've been playing lately, either on or off your stream.
We've been playing a lot of. I know for Yoda, she's been playing a lot of 3DS games off camera.
Mhm.
I've been preparing for the PS5 when I do get it. I'm refusing to buy any games until I get the console.
Fair enough. So, a couple things I've played so far recently. I actually just finished the original Deadly Premonitions game finally. It's been years since that came out for the 360. I finally picked it up and got it through GameFly, and because I'm an active member there, and I picked up the Origins for the Switch and played it on the Switch, and that made it easier because I remember trying to play it on the 360 and I couldn't get beyond the controls. And you can actually map controls on the Switch, which was nice.
And I believe I have that for the PC as well.
Correct, yeah. And that on PC was, I mean, even PC was good because you could actually map the controller, obviously, through the picture mode for Steam.
Yes.
But it's weird. It's a weird story. It's very bad voice acting, but from someone like myself who loves like the House of the Dead series, I would say that I really enjoyed it. There's some good plot twists in there as well. Made me feel uncomfortable in some sessions, which is really good, especially in a horror scenario like that was. So honestly, if I'd give Deadly Premonitions at least like a 7 or an 8 out of 10. Honestly,
I'd agree with you on that. Haven't really dived in, but I agree with you on that.
Yeah, it's a very solid game. It's more of a hidden treasure and a cult classic, though. So unless you hear about it, kind of like Corpse Party or something like that, there's not much news about it. So you wouldn't really catch it. And obviously, it got a little bit of news and some notification when Switch was deemed the only console that would release its sequel. Which I'm still up in the air about trying as well. I'm going to obviously play that later on. Once the newness of the PS5 wears off, I'll be able to dive back into my Switch again.
Give it about 6 months, probably.
I mean, who knows? I mean, it depends on how quickly I can get through games and get games through GameFly and things of that nature. It could be 6 months, it could be a year, it could be 2 months. It just really, I might be playing my Switch on the side while I'm trading out games through GameFly kind of thing. So,
we have no brand loyalty.
Nope, not at all. Same here. I mean, honestly, the weaker of the three is definitely my Xbox, but I still use it. But it's really close neck and neck battle between my PS4 and my Switch when I play more. So
I'm about, if I see something interesting on the Switch, I will try and figure out a way to get it, but I'm
yes.
mostly reliant on my PS4 right now.
Yeah, I like my Switch because I can just take it on the go, and that's been its key feature, and that's what's kind of driven me to get stuff on the Switch over other things, because with being mobile with a child now, and not being able to religiously play games at the hours that like I used to do, I need to be able to put it down and pick it back up and keep going where I left it off. And even if it's not home, I can still bring the Switch with me and like just sit there and put some headphones in and go to town. So that's why I've been kind of focusing on my Switch when it's more of that aspect. But I mean, my PlayStation still's doing its thing. I mean, I'm still playing Persona 5 Royal, things of that nature on there. So
I've got the Ultimate Edition on my PS5 PS4, by the way.
oh,
Sorry
nice.
about that.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
So I think the other game I'm gonna notice, because I kind of transitioned and started talking about Persona 5, is I'm currently with my Vita playing through the PSP version of Persona 2, the Innocent Sin. So I'm about say about halfway done with it, give or take, story wise. I'm cruising pretty rapidly through it.
I mean, Persona is one of the games that we absolutely love on both our channels.
I was just about to say that.
Yep. So I never played either one of the twos or one. I've beaten 3, 4, and 5. So I went back to 2, and it's definitely interesting. The battle takes a little getting used to, and the rumor system is weird in 2, but it's interesting. Interestingly weird, I think, is the best way to describe it. Because then you got the whole, like, whatever you do to spread a rumor actually comes true. So it kind of helps manipulate the gameplay.
Atlas, please, for the love of God, put more Persona games on PC.
That they talked about it. They already discussed it. They are going to do more PC games, especially because of how well Golden sold. I wouldn't be surprised if we get 5. I think how it would go, honestly, because 5 is the most recent one, and the second, I mean, it is the most popular one right now because, yes, if you're a diehard Persona fan, people will argue with that hands down that 4 was better than 5, which I can agree on some accounts. I'm just as guilty. But I feel 5 would be coming next, and then the revenue from 4 Golden and 5 would basically fund, if they do it right, like we talked about earlier off this podcast, they would fund the remake or remaster of 3 for the PC.
I'd really like to see that. But
right?
If they're going to do Persona 5, it would have to be Persona 5R. I would feel would be the best.
Yeah, no, I think they deserve to do 5R because it's got everything included, just like Golden had everything. You wouldn't want to send out because I feel like that's part of the reason why Golden worked so well. It wasn't like they went in and was like, you know what, we're gonna release Persona 4. You know, that game you played on the PS2 without all that extra content? Yeah, that's what we're gonna release. People would have been pissed. And it wouldn't have sold as well. They need the all-out version, just like FES or even the portable version of Persona 3 that was on the PSP wasn't bad. It actually made it a little easier because on the PSP you could actually control your other teammates, which was nice.
And if I may make a recommendation to Atlas, please port that version over to the PC.
Yes. So,
it would be horrible if you couldn't control your teammates.
Yes, there's been a lot of. I've seen a couple of people try to play it where you don't control. You only have control over your own character. You can tell them what to do, but they don't do have. They don't necessarily have to do what you tell them. It's kind of their own. It's like a recommendation for them instead of just commanding them. So definitely, definitely. So I would say right now, where I stand with Persona 2, I would probably give that a solid 8.5 right now. I know I haven't hit at all the good plot twists that come in a Persona game yet, so I'm still working through it. So I doubt it's going to get any lower than an 8.5, but I could always. It's always possible that I could raise that score up to almost a 9 or a 10, depending on how the rest of the story goes.
Since I can play those two, I watch Let's Plays of it, so I understand where exactly you are.
So,
I definitely
spoilers.
feel that.
I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm just going to say, because I won't mention locations or anything like that, I'll just mention that the bombs just went off.
I know exactly where you are.
Yep. So that's where I am. I'm about halfway done with the game, give or take.
As for my Persona 5R Ultimate playthrough, I've logged in about 500 hours.
Oh, geez. Yeah, no, I'm still in Kamoshida's castle. I've been distracted by many a thing, so.
And
mostly your cute little daughter.
My son?
I mean, what?
My son?
That's what I meant.
No, it's all good. Yeah. No, between him and the stuff coming out left and right, it's hard to kind of go back to Persona right now. That's like an old Persona that I've already played, so it's in the backlog. Persona 5 Royal will probably be one of those ones I take and push over to my PS5, just so that I can play it on the PS5 and probably have those nice smooth load times. I'd love to see what P5R looks like on the PS5.
I'm definitely taking my Ultimate Edition and transferring it over when I do get it.
Yes.
That's going to be freaking nuts.
Right? Yeah, no, I can't wait to see what it looks like.
I can't wait to see how fast it loads.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be just the fast loading. I hope I didn't see anything about Atlas saying anything about a P5, and a PS5 upgrade or anything for it, though, which is kind of. I mean,
it's going to happen.
It's going to happen because Atlas just cares so much about their fans. They're going to do it. I'm just waiting for when. Just like, if we're going to talk, if this message is going to go to Atlas by any means, Atlas, I'm talking to you right here, right now. For the love of God, bring us Scramble. For the love of God. I need Persona 5 Scramble in my life. I've played the Japanese demo numerous times on my Switch, but I am not going to buy a full game in Japanese, bring it over, localize the damn thing, and get it out. I need Persona 5 Scramble yesterday.
Please and thank you.
Yes.
I mean, if they're able to make a collection of the best of Persona games, there needs to be a collection. Persona 1, Persona 2, both games. There's more than one version.
Yes, there was Innocent Sin, and then there's Eternal Punishment. So Eternal Punishment takes place after Innocent Sin. So Innocent Sin's actually a prequel, which is why I started with Innocent Sin before I started Eternal Punishment.
Yeah. And Persona 3 FES. Primarily, and they could add the control your teammates.
Yeah, I would say control your teammate with FES, so that way you've got, not only do you have the main story, but you have the journey afterwards, the IGUS side story.
That was brilliant.
Yep. Definitely.
and then Persona 4 Golden. Those games alone should be on either a Ultra Blu-ray for the PS5 and just let us play it that way.
I mean, I wouldn't. But the thing is, I don't think I want ports. I would rather them remake or remaster them. You know what I mean? I don't want a direct port. I think Persona players wouldn't want to go back to Persona 1 because I've seen screenshots of Persona 1 and I haven't played Persona 1 yet. It's on my Vita to play because I got the PSP version of it. But that first-person dungeon crawler would turn a lot of people away, I feel, compared to the third-person view that we usually have in our Persona games.
Right, so I'd like to see a remaster of the first one.
I
Yeah.
mean, look. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, honey. I mean, look how they did with the remake of Final Fantasy VII.
Yep. So I'm saying, do that for Persona 1 and I guarantee you it'll sell like hotcakes.
Oh, exactly. That's what I was getting at. Like, I've seen a lot of bad remakes, but if they can remake it as well as they did the Final Fantasy VII, then yeah, it'll sell like hotcakes, no problem.
Definitely. Now we will switch gears and talk about things from a disabled standpoint that we find really difficult in games, if you don't mind, JVM.
Of course. Yeah, no, yeah.
So what I've noticed is that for me, when playing a video game, I'd like to see either they toggle more toggles involved. Because if I have to hold 3 buttons at a time, and mind you, I can only use one hand, right? So I have to stretch my whole hand across the controller and hit the buttons up top,
I mean,
or, you know.
he he has long fingers, but he's not Slender Man.
So yeah, even on the Switch, like, I love the Joy-Cons, but they're like too small, and the fact
Yep.
that I have to use a Pro controller or a GameCube controller, love the GameCube, man. Controller for it. I have a Pokemon themed one, which I'm looking at right now. If people are wondering. Um, so yeah. Less on the button pressing. Also, another thing, low vision.
That's for both of us. Both of us are legally blind, and that brings another point. Video games with very bad lighting issues, either they're too dark or they're too light, and we get stuck, like really bad. Like the game is pretty much bricked for us when we can't see what we're doing, and it really sucks because I was just doing Legend
Playthrough
of
of
yeah
Ocarina of
Legend
Time.
yeah Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, and I was doing really good up until the point where I had to go through the what was it the Zora River at
Mm-hmm.
night. That area where I had to do it at night, and I had to do this and I had to do that, I got stuck.
I mean, those are just minor things, but
But
I could
still,
understand why you needed to do them. You needed to do them so you get the adult's wallet and giant's wallet,
which
respectively.
yeah, which is needed. But what I'm saying is, yeah, it was a small thing, but it brings a bigger issue where the lighting is concerned.
I mean, if you're going to all game developers in the limelight, who's ever watching this, please let us talk to you we can help you make the games better. And I'm sure you've noticed when I play with you, JVM, online, playing Mario Maker, and I keep messing the jumps
Yep.
because I have to stretch my hand across my GameCube controller. That's what I used to play with. And it is very, very uncomfortable.
Yes.
And it really kills my enjoyment because I'm trying to do it. The controllers, like, I've dropped multiple controllers due to the way I have to have my hands. I've broken many a controller that way.
Yeah. No, I can only imagine how frustrating it gets. Definitely.
I'm sure you've noticed that.
A little bit when we were playing like Mario Maker or what was that other game we played? But when we play games, I do notice a little bit of a lag delay or input into it because of the ability you have to stretch your hand out to make even a simple jump, which doesn't seem like a lot from maybe a developer standpoint, but with somebody with like a disability or can only play a game one-handed, that's like running a marathon for just one little action such as jumping or platforming.
Well, it's not only that. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, JVM. With him, see, he has a thing called cerebral palsy, which is why he can only use one hand. He also is very spastic, so that makes things difficult as well.
Any loud booms or anything that scares me, I go, whoa. Like I literally jump out of my seat.
And that's most of the reason why he's broken so many controllers. I can contest to that right now. He's jumped and then the controller would go flying, or he sneezes and his headset would go flying and break. That has happened once.
Yes. So there's a eclectic thing with game development. But if actually I could get in there, like the PS5 is practically perfect, but the game development needs to either put more toggles in there or, make the button controls closer that I don't have to stretch my arms across.
Yeah. One other thing with the accessibility, like the games where you have to follow along with font or whichever, and the font being super, super tiny. Both me and him are legally blind, so that's practically impossible to read.
And even when playing Days Gone, I literally couldn't get out of the tutorial because of the darn bandage thing. And JVM,
Yes.
mind if I make a personal suggestion?
I'm listening.
Try playing a game one-handed and then get back.
Fair enough.
And do you have any first-person shooters?
Yeah, no, I could not imagine a first-person shooter with one-handed.
I actually have the pictures of his hand. Like, there's a video that we have on our channel where it shows where he was showing his hand placement for games like that, and he was using a first-person shooter as an example. And yeah, it's very difficult.
It is extremely difficult, but it's always the same thing. If you have, it's not just first-person shooters I'm mad at or upset with. It's every single game that has to make me use the shoulder buttons up top.
Yeah.
Or 3-button combinations.
I have a hard time with that as well, and I use two hands, but my left hand is, I have a hard time with it. So it's sort of like one-handed, but I can use my thumb on my left hand, so it's kind of like his situation, except the opposite, because the hand that he uses for everything is his left, and the hand that I use for everything is my right. And my hands are smaller than his, so that
Um,
really makes things difficult.
yes, and even with fighting games or Devil May Cry, I have to put it on easy mode, because it does the movements for me,
Mm-hmm.
which is really a shame, because I love these games, and when I play them on easy mode, and for the gunfire I have to put it on automatic, which
Hmm.
defeats the purpose of the game, which I feel bad about because I want to experience it normally, right?
Of course.
And I just can't do that. I know it's there for accessibility, but why should I have to turn something on just to make it function for me better? I understand why it's there, but why should I?
Yeah. And like we were saying earlier, with the PS5, we'll be able to turn on easy mode for all games system wide on the PS5. But still, it sucks that we have to go to easy mode because of accessibility issues.
Alright.
Because we literally play these games all day, every day.
Multiple times a day. Off camera, on camera, it's just something we enjoy doing. But when you put a roadblock or put the real ending on a higher difficulty, there is no way I can experience the full game. You know those old games that, like on the NES, Sega, or whatever? You know how they cut you off after a certain number of, let's say, matches or leaves out levels until you go to the higher difficulties?
Mm-hmm.
I used to
Yep.
hate that as a kid. But that is my rant.
Fair enough.
Um, anything else?
No, I think we covered everything we wanted to today. I guess we can kind of close it out with just kind of a reminder. I guess I'll start. Just want to remind everyone that my name is JVMSNIGHTMARE. You can catch me on Twitch. I stream weekends from 12 to 2 p.m. And the link will be.
I'll put everything in the description on our side.
Yep, the link will be below for mine as well as Sammy uh, and One Handed Gaming's Twitch channel. So hope to see you guys there. Come in, chat. We play games. We hang out. We have fun. Just had a Splatoon stream this afternoon, which was pretty dope. So hope to see everyone there. And I'm gonna pass it over to Sammy.
And with that being said, guys, remember for those of us who play one-handed to keep those controllers spinning, charged, or, or they will die on you. But please follow us on Twitter as well. We do post a lot of disabled gaming stuff and really fun stuff over there.
I'll make sure to put all the links on our side,
Yeah.
including for the video that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah. So thank you all for listening to this
Yeah.
wonderful podcast.
Thanks everyone. We'll talk again soon.
Hopefully